What is up, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters? Welcome back to Chalk Talk, presented to you by Deal With It Productions. I'm Preston Deal, and yes, you heard that right. I control everything in that statement because we all know that betting on yourself is the surefire way to give maximum effort and take no days off. We wrapped up the combine yesterday with the big bodyguards, big men running, personal protectors, quarterbacks' best friends, arguably the most important position on the football field, offensive lineman. And it was a show. Now, you're going to see that we got new lighting. We changed some things up. It's still casting a little bit of a weird shadow. It was casting weird shadows from other angles. We upgraded. We are on the up and up. Before we do anything, I promised I was staying off the brain juice, or at least limiting it, yesterday. But my wife left me one today to do the show to conclude what a great weekend this was. So, without further ado, we're going to jump in. Shout out to Red Bull, too. It gives you wings, and it's perfect that I'm drinking a Red Bull the day after these offensive linemen were literally flying. Now, when you're looking at offensive linemen and defensive linemen, respectfully, too, but offensive linemen mainly, the 40-yard dash is flashy and it's nice and it shows athleticism, it shows speed. We're looking at that 10-yard split. We want to know how fast can an offensive lineman move within a 10-yard split. How much momentum can they generate off the ball in a short distance? We need to know if they can get up to the next level, if they can block, linebackers, if they can reach safeties, if they can get out and run on screen plays. I really appreciate the combine changing up some of the drills for the offensive line, making it a little more practical. The pass set drill, the redirect, the mirror, those are all great. The screen drill, the 1-1000, 2-1000 club and go, flat and then up the field, shows a lot to what these offensive linemen are capable of. And I really appreciate seeing those drills, and you can kind of see what you see on tape from these offensive linemen. When you start breaking everything down, you're starting to see that translate onto the combine field as well. One other key note that I think is very important is we're starting to see a lot of players, and it became a big trend this whole weekend, who have a lot of college experience, a lot of starts, a lot of snaps played. I mean, I think almost every offensive lineman has played 30, 40 plus games, or at least started a majority of those games over their careers. That's the product of NIL. That's the product of the transfer portal. That is what we're getting in this day and age with players that, could come out early, that could come out as fourth or fifth round draft picks, maybe, their junior year. They rather transfer, get a couple $100,000 in the bank account, get paid to play at another school, develop for another, 10, 12, potentially 16 games if you go to play in the national championship, and you're developing those tools and those kind of mechanical issues that you might have had that made you a fourth or fifth round pick into making you potentially second or third round pick, which makes you more money in the NFL. So I think there's a lot of good that's coming out of it. Another thing that I've noticed, and I was talking about this last night, is I believe moving forward we are going to have better quality draft picks throughout all 7 rounds. And over the years, you kind of get into that 6th or 7th round, you might find a diamond in the rough. You might draft 3 guys in those last 2 rounds. 2 will be busts. 1 will kind of work out, be a backup, be off the team in a couple years. It's also likely that none of them make the team. I mean, that's kind of how it's been. As I'm going through my list right now and putting together these position rankings of guys that I have draftable grades meaning they could be drafted anywhere from pick 1 to pick 257. They are good enough to be drafted. And if you're good enough to be drafted, in my opinion, you're good enough to make an NFL team. Now, you have to go out there and you have to prove whether you can make an NFL team, but you've put enough film, you played enough college ball, you did what you had to do if you got invited to these, Shrine Bowls or whatever they are. You've showed through your workouts, your combine, and your pro day that you are a draftable player, that you are draftable. You have that draftable grade. And right now, I think we might have more than 257. I'm not sure. I don't know the exact number. I always think it's higher than it actually is. Probably going to go run the numbers, and it'll be somewhere in that 180 to 200 before I add the offensive lineman. And this offensive line group was awesome. That was by far my favorite day of the combine was yesterday, watching these guys get out there. There is a different competitive nature that offensive linemen have versus skill positions. And as a former skill position, I can say this with confidence. They are much more competitive than we are. They are much more competitive than we give them credit for. You have, for example, you have Will Campbell, he's been in these mock drafts, he's projected top 5, worst case top 10 pick. He's out there running and competing. You have the top offensive lineman. You have Donovan Jackson from Ohio State out there, and he's visibly not 100%, but he's out there competing. He played 16 games for the Ohio State Buckeyes, won a national championship, and hasn't stopped working out or competing. Those are the guys that you want. Those are those guys in those trenches. Those are the guys that if your season goes haywire, and you're on the brink of only winning 5 or 6 games, they're still out there competing to make their team better. The heart, the soul, the drive, the overall athleticism from this offensive line group is unlike anything I've ever seen. Now, I don't know if there's the elite offensive lineman like we saw last year. Last year we had obviously Joe Alt. There was a lot of really elite offensive linemen that were just kind of, hey, we'll draft them today. Tomorrow they'll get here. The next day they're going to be our starting tackle or starting guard or starting center or whatever it is. I don't know if we have that, but we definitely have guys that are going to develop throughout this offseason when they get drafted to their team and find themselves in a starting role. Another thing I've noticed about this offensive line group, seems like a lot of tackles are going to be kicking inside. Seems like a lot of guys who were forced to play tackle at their respected school are now having the traits and the measurables that kick inside, which makes the free agent market for offensive tackles, I think, a little bit higher, a little bit better, a little bit more competitive versus the, where we've seen in past where there's guys that are just true offensive tackles. And the versatility of some of these offensive linemen was incredible. Seeing guys started 20 games at left tackle, started 8 games at left guard, 2 at center, 3 at right tackle. I mean, they play all over the board. And if you guys know anything about offensive line or don't, this is just a little tool and kind of tidbit. If you grow up playing left guard or left tackle, that's like growing up throwing left-handed, let's just say. Moving to the right side would be like somebody asking you now to throw right-handed. It's a completely different stance. It's a completely different technique, completely different mentality, different athletic abilities. And if you're a right-handed quarterback, obviously we've all seen the movie Blindside. Your left tackle is your best friend, your most important person because they're blocking what you can't see. And if you're left-handed, it's your right tackle. So we only have one left-handed quarterback, 2 now actually. Michael Penix and Tua, 2 lefties. So those teams have a vested interest in that right tackle position over that left tackle position. But in the grand scheme of things, offensive line is 5 men that have to work cohesively together as one unit at over 300 pounds, blocking guys that are running straight forward while these guys are moving backwards. And they have to make sure that one guy that stands in the pocket, who some people will say is the most important position, can do what he does best and make plays to win the game. We saw it in the Super Bowl. If your offensive line is not a cohesive unit, you have no chance. It doesn't matter if you're the greatest quarterback of all time. You can ask Tom Brady, you can ask Peyton Manning, you can go and ask Patrick Mahomes now 2 different times. He played Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. His offensive line fell apart. They couldn't do anything. They made no progress. A couple weeks ago, Super Bowl, plays the Eagles. Offensive line's a mess. Cannot make no progress. That's the way it goes. That is how football works. Just like if you're on defense and you don't have a good pass rush, your DBs are going to look worse than they actually are because they can't cover for 8 to 10 seconds out there. It's impossible. So, things to think about. Today, the video is going to be short. I'm going to give my top offensive tackle performer, my top guard, and my top center performer from the combine from yesterday. I'm going to give two standout guys that I do want to give a shout out to who are rising up the board literally overnight. Combine finished yesterday. Did the rest of all my notes, all my scouting, all my position rankings, and these guys are shooting up the board like crazy. The other thing I do want to say is I do think that there's going to be NFL teams this year that double down on offensive linemen. I think I wouldn't be shocked if there was a handful, maybe 7 or 8 teams, maybe 10, that draft double offensive linemen. Maybe an offensive lineman in the first or second round, revisit it in the fourth or fifth. Maybe they draft one in the third and fourth. Something, maybe a tackle, guard, center tackle, whatever the combination may be. Maybe double tackle, you never know. I think that there's enough depth in this offensive line class where we could see a lot of doubling down, which makes me excited for this draft because with as much talent as there is and how much the competition's getting better, and let me tell you something, these guys are getting bigger, faster, stronger. Every year they are bigger, they are faster, they are stronger. We are evolving as humans in the game of football like something that I've never seen before. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this draft. I think there's going to be guys that pop up in the 6th and 7th round that people are going to be like, how in the world did he make it to the 6th round? He's going to go on to have a great career, and we're all going to laugh about how he's a 6th round draft pick. But let's get into the highlights. Let's get into the all-stars of this conclusion. We kicked off the combine with big men in the D-line, and we concluded the combine with big men in the O-line. Number one guy for the tackle, I think performed the best. I have him as a first-round pick already. I think he might be moving up the boards to be, arguably number 3 tackle, maybe even number 2 tackle. Armand Membu, the Missouri offensive tackle. He's 6'4", 332 pounds. He ran a 4.9 140 at that size, which is impressive. But what's really impressive is the 1.74 10-yard split. For a guy that's 6'4", over 330 pounds, to be able to move and explode and gain that much traction, that quickness in a short yardage, in a 10-yard split is impressive. His field workouts were just as smooth. He's got very light feet. He's got active hands. When you watch him do the drills, he looks like a basketball player. He grew up playing basketball. It's kind of like the story I think that they were telling. I try not to listen to some of these commentary type of things, but happened to tune into some of it. He looks like a basketball player. He moves really fluid. He's very smooth on his feet. He probably can dunk. The guy is insane athletic, and he is becoming quickly one of the top rising offensive tackles. I think if he's available at 13, he's primarily here we go. This is where this comes in. Yeah, his primary position, we're just going to go with that. His primary position is right tackle. He probably can play left. I'm just from thinking about like where he's going to fit. If he lasts to number 13, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins snag him. If he slips past the Bears, I think that would be we're talking about left-handed quarterbacks needing a right tackle. That's a huge piece. That's a good component. I think he played some games at left tackle. I haven't watched his full tape. I haven't done the whole, thing for him yet. But I think he'll find his heading more on the right side. And I think Miami might be a very, very, very good landing spot for him. The top guard, and I've said this guy's name over and over again since the Senior Bowl, watched him all year, Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. He took the most reps, I should say, in Senior Bowl history. He beat everybody that he went against. His on-field drills are just so smooth. Now, he didn't run a 40, so we don't have that 40 time or that 10-yard split time, which is no big deal. Also, these guys are going to be doing like bench press and those type of things today, which is obviously those are key important factors for offensive linemen. You know, how much weight can you move? How strong is your upper body? But Gray Zabel, he came in at 6'6", 312 pounds. He moves very well. He played tackle. He's played guard. He played center at the Senior Bowl. This guy's like drafting 5 offensive linemen in one. He's insanely athletic. He's very quick and agile. I think he could easily be a day one starter. Might be the best center in the draft right now. I like him at guard at the 6'6", 312 pounds. I think he could probably put on 10 or 15 more and still hold his body the way that he does. I think he'll be a mauler at that left guard position. I don't see him making it past the Rams at 24. Ooh, don't quote me on that. I'll put their pick here. 24, 26, somewhere. Maybe it's 26. It's probably 26. Numbers and picks and teams and everything has kind of been jumbled up, so apologize for that. It will be on the screen though, so you guys can see where they pick. I don't think he makes it past them. I don't know if he's going to make it outside the top 20 with the performance that he put on. I don't think he even needs to run a 40 or 10-yard split to understand how good he is in short spaces. You watch that Senior Bowl. If you watch every one-on-one that he took, one-on-one rep from the Senior Bowl, that is a first-round offensive lineman. And he turned down money to stay at North Dakota State, to go to bigger schools to play offensive line. So it shows that he's an unselfish guy. He's loyal to the team that's going to draft him, and he's going to play for a very long time. I really like this guy. I think he's got a bright future in the NFL. The best center performance was Jared Wilson out of Georgia. He came in at 6'3", 310 pounds. He ran a 4.8 40. This guy's a former soccer player, I guess. That's what they were saying. At 6'3", 310 pounds, which I didn't even know that existed, but it shows with his 4.8 40, and his split was a 1.72, which is incredible. And thinking back to what I said about Membu, his split was a 1.74 at 6'4", 332 pounds. 22 pounds heavier, an inch taller. He's almost as fast as the center, which just shows incredible athleticism. But the 4.84 shows you that this center and Jared Wilson is obviously from Georgia. These guys, Cedric Van Pran Gardner, came out of there. I was a huge fan of his. He's now with the Bills. Ooh. Yeah, Bills, I think. Well, we'll check on that. But regardless, these centers that from Georgia, when you play at Georgia, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a physical run-blocking center. You're going to get a center that's really smart, and you're going to get a center that can call pass protections very, very, very consistently and can read the defense just as well as a quarterback can, because Kirby Smart does not allow his players to be stupid. And that is absolutely the opposite of all these Georgia offensive linemen. I think that they had 4, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 5. Maybe all 5 went to the combine. I'm not sure. I think there was 4 for sure there. That just shows the level of production, quality, and developing offensive line and talent that the University of Georgia has. I really like Wilson. I think he's probably behind Zabel. If Zabel was the play center, the second best center, if Zabel's going to be labeled a guard, Wilson's the number 1 center in the draft. He doesn't make it outside the second round. I don't think he makes it outside the first 40 picks. There's value in the center position, especially if you have a veteran quarterback. I'm going to say that again. If you have a veteran quarterback who needs an offensive center that can plug and play right now, and your team doesn't have one, and who is smart enough to understand what that veteran quarterback needs, you might be in a very good position. Or pair him up with a young guy and let them develop for the next 8 to 10 years and see what happens. Those are my 3 winners of the offensive line. I can name every single offensive lineman that competed yesterday as a winner. I didn't see too much negative on the field. Saw some slippage, saw some guys that were a little tight. We had, I think, 4 or 5 guys that measured in at over 6'7", which is that's an incredible size. Just one, naturally you don't really see that outside of a basketball gym. So it's hard for those guys to kind of bend and move. I thought that they all did a very, very good job. But I think that there is a lot of good that's coming out of this offensive line class. From rounds 2 to 7, you're going to see a lot of quality offensive linemen. I think the projected top guys will go in the first round. I don't think anybody's going to sneak into that first round. I would be shocked if there was a name that we haven't talked about in the offensive line grouping, or what you've seen out there from analysts or mock drafters and all this stuff, that finds their way into the first round as an offensive lineman. But I mean, again, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. The two guys that are rising on my board overnight, which are great to see. I love that. I love that kind of trajectory. I love missing before the combine, missing guys like, oh, this guy's like probably third or fourth round. Watch a little bit of tape, check off the box. They go to the combine. You're like, whoa, maybe this guy's like a second rounder. Maybe this guy's like a high third round pick. Offensive tackle Marcus Bowe from Purdue. He measured in at 6'4", 303 pounds. He didn't run a 40, so we don't have that 10-yard split. But he's ultra athletic, and he just, if you watch his tape and then you watch the field workout, he's very in phase with his body. His feet match his hips stay level. He doesn't get out of control. His punch is consistent. His pass pro was what I was really, really, I think he had one of the most perfect pass pros of the day on the set. So, you set, you punch left, redirect, punch right, pass pro, get out. They do the tracer. His tracer was pretty much like a straight line the whole time, and his hips just flipped. And then he got back and he covered the most ground in the pass pro out of anybody. He didn't cheat the drill. He's an athletic monster is what I'm going to call him. Not as heavy as Membo from Missouri, so I think that there's some room to grow. Obviously, his athleticism's kind of built into that lighter frame. I think 303 pounds is probably perfect. I've heard rumors and rumblings that he'll probably kick inside, which would mean that he's like the most athletic right guard probably in the entire draft. So we'll see where he kind of aligns. Right now, I'm keeping him at tackle until there's a distinction otherwise. When he gets onto a team, he might kick inside, but his overall performance is worth noting. The other guy is actually from Rancho Cucamonga, which is really close to where I am. This guy, Joshua Gray, he went to Oregon State. He came in at 6'5", basically 300 pounds. He weighed in at 299, which is basically 300. Thing about offensive linemen is like they could weigh in right now at this very moment at 299 and then get onto the practice field. They're like 308, and then tomorrow they're like 298, and then they're 305. They fluctuate in weight like quicker than any other position or any other human that you'll ever see, depending on if they take a meal, if they go to the bathroom, if they run a little bit, if they sleep a little bit. Their bodies work in a way that if you're not an offensive lineman, you just don't understand. So I wouldn't discredit a 299 weight. I'm sure this guy plays over 300. I'm sure he's played at games under 299, and he's been just fine. He's an offensive guard by trait. Even at 6'5", he's got good length arms. But his split was 173. And he ran a 5:04.40. So insanely athletic. 173 is 0.01 seconds slower than Jared Wilson, who ran a 172. Now, Jared Wilson, 4.84, which is incredible. That is absolutely insane. That is blazing speed. For Gray, 5:04 is what it is. Nothing you can do about that. But I'm looking at that 173. I've watched his tape last night now after kind of watching his performance, kind of learning about him at the combine. This guy is nasty. He's physical. He is a violent blocker. His hands, when they get on you, he's planning on pancaking you. He's planning on getting you to the ground, and he's going to keep you there. That is his overall mentality, kind of like Talisi Fuaga last year coming out. These Oregon State kids, they just have this mentality of domination. Like, how badly can I beat you down to the ground so that we can have a fighting chance in this game? You see a lot of nastiness with offensive linemen on teams that aren't very good. That's kind of what I've noticed. Or if you go to like Georgia, where nastiness is just kind of built into the culture, when your team's not good, your offensive line starts to get fired up because they're the only ones that are playing every single game, every single snap on offense the whole season. Sometimes, oh, well, we're going to save a receiver. Our running backs aren't going to finish out the year, or we're going to go by committee. We're going to get some young guys in there at receiver if, we've only won 3 games. Offensive linemen don't sit out. So as Oregon State has not been as good as they should be, these guys are getting nastier as these years are going on. So if you're looking at drafting an offensive lineman and the school is not that good, look for their nastiness level to be through the roof. And this guy, Gray, I think he probably is going to be that 3rd, 4th round pick, probably slip to the 4th round just due to, I would say, team needs and production value as far as what we've seen with running backs, receivers, and kind of skill positions. But he's going to be a very good guard. I think he can start day one. And I was very impressed by his field workout and his tape when I watched it last night. So those are our big men. Those are our bodyguards, our personal protectors, our whatever you want to call them. These guys are throwing people out of the club. Love these guys. These guys, you can just tell that the personalities, the connections that they have, the coaches in the drills that are yelling, that are crazy. It's a different environment when you hang out with offensive linemen in their natural realm of competition. It's a different environment when you hang out with them outside of competition. They're their own species. Like if you're looking at like the animal kingdom of football player positions, they're like over here and then everybody else is just kind of over here, and then they blend when they need to, and then they separate themselves when they have to. So I love the offensive linemen. I think overall, the production of the combine was fantastic. I think it was super awesome to see all of these guys compete that came out there and competed. Starting with the defensive line, we went linebackers, we went DBs, corners and safeties that blew the roof off. We went tight ends who had overall relatively decent day, I would say, give or take. Quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. I think the quarterbacks performed above what we all thought. Receivers had a lot of really nice things. We saw some news break with, the Deebo Samuel trade, the Matthew Stafford, staying with the Rams. What does that mean for everybody else? And then obviously we close it out with the offensive line. I'm going to start working on everything else, getting everything organized. A new mock draft kind of system will be coming this week. It just so happens that today's Monday, so the video comes out. We're back on schedule. It's perfect when things work out. I won't be back until Friday, releasing another full video. Not sure what that topic's going to be. I really do appreciate everybody that watches, that listens, that comments, shares, subscribes, does the whole song and dance. Throughout the week, there will be shorts throughout all these videos that I've made about the combine that are released, probably release, between 2 and 3 a day, just to get the content out there. If you have anybody that you haven't heard that kind of triggers your mind as far as performances and combines and what you really like to see, I've been getting texts already throughout the weekend about, hey, what about this guy? Where do you have this guy? What about this performance? Did you see this guy run? What do you think? Those are all things that help us build shows, build contents. I love to shout people out. It's something that I really enjoy. So if you want to shout out, if you want some content to be brought up, please let me know. I'll try to get to it as best as I can. But with that being said, the combine's over. We look forward to the draft, April 24th through the 26th. If I remember those dates correctly, probably put it right here. I can't wait for that. I'm going to come up with a full total number. I'll probably put it in this video of how many guys I have. Probably not in this video because I don't know if I'll get to it today. But how many guys I have that have draftable grades on them this year. And then we'll go from there. And I will see everybody on Friday. I'm Preston Deal for everybody here at Chalk Talk and the Deal With It Productions, the family, the cast, the crew, everybody that helps make this thing go around and everybody that supports. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and we will see you on Friday. Peace.